Live look here at the courthouse in Lower Manhattan, where the former president, Donald Trump, will appear in court for arraignment. His attorney says he will plead not guilty to what's being reported as more than 30 felony charges. Chief White House correspondent James Rosen joining us now live from our D.C. newsroom with White House reaction to this historic day. James, as this extraordinary drama plays out, President Biden refusing to comment, correct?
That's right. Since last Thursday, when the news first broke that the grand jury in Manhattan had handed down this indictment, President Biden has studiously refused to comment, saying repeatedly, "I'm just not going to comment on Trump." The only substantive news that we've gotten out of the White House since then has been from the White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, who did inform reporters during a gaggle aboard Air Force One last week that it was from the White House Chief of Staff, Jeff Zients, that President Biden learned this news. The White House had no advance heads up. Even as late as yesterday, when asked again about the possibility of unruly protests breaking out in response to the former president's arraignment, the White House would only say that they are prepared. They would not even disclose whether any federal personnel had been deployed to New York to assist in security precautions there. The White House has good reason not to comment on this. For one thing, they want to let it play out. For another, they don't want to appear to be reveling or gloating in this news, or to provide any additional ammunition for Mr. Trump to claim, as he already has, that this prosecution is politically motivated.
James, we've never seen something quite like this, but it's coming up on 50 years since we've seen something remotely like this. You have to go back to the Watergate era. You've written a book on Watergate. Any similarities that stand out to you to what we're seeing today?
Well, you have to be at least 60 years old at this point to remember firsthand the day of October 10, 1973, which took most Americans completely by surprise, as opposed to what we're seeing here, which has played out for weeks, months, and years. It was back on that day, as you can see on your screen, that Vice President Spiro Agnew, re-elected with President Nixon the year before in a landslide, appeared in a Baltimore federal courtroom and pleaded no contest, nolo contendere, to tax evasion charges from a bribery scandal that stemmed from Agnew's days as the governor of Maryland. And this was at the height of Watergate, but it really had nothing to do with the Watergate break-in and surveillance operation and the cover-up that ensued from those events. This really was the residue of Agnew's service as the governor of Maryland years earlier. And most Americans had heard nothing about that case when Agnew showed up in that Baltimore courtroom as part of a plea deal with federal prosecutors. He pleaded no contest to tax evasion charges and agreed to resign the vice presidency within an hour's time, which he did. But that's as close as we've come to something like what we're seeing now. In terms of the former president, until President Nixon was pardoned by his successor on September 8th, 1974, there was a month there after Nixon had resigned where he was subject to potential prosecution. But it was his successor, the person who originally succeeded Agnew, Gerald Ford, who issued that presidential pardon to President Nixon for all crimes he committed or may have committed when he was president of the United States. No one expects that kind of clemency from Mr. Biden today.
Well, we are living through history as we speak. James Rosen, live from D.C. James, thank you very much. Continuing our coverage at this hour, Arthur Aidala is a New York trial attorney. Aaron Reed, criminal defense attorney. Gentlemen, welcome. Thanks for coming on. Arthur, I'd like to start with you, if we could, maybe just walk us through the basics, what we can expect today, the former president, when he arrives at the Manhattan Criminal Court. What does the legal process look like upon his arrival?
Sure. So I had dinner last night with Joseph Tacopina, Mr. Trump's lead attorney, and I just got off the phone with the head of the court officers union, Dennis Quirk. So we got some up-to-date information. They're not expecting President Trump to arrive at the courthouse until close to 1 o'clock. They want him in that building the shortest amount of time possible for safety concerns. Everyone is concerned, obviously, with the safety of the president, but everyone else around. So he's going to get there around approximately around 1 o'clock, and there's going to be one of those tents so that when he pulls up, you're not going to see the president get out of the car. He's just going to walk through this like tunnel that they put up. And he's going to go into the employees' entrance of the district attorney's office, which is on the side of the criminal court building. He'll go into the district attorney's office. He's going to get fingerprinted. He's going to have his mugshot taken. And shortly thereafter, when that paperwork is accumulated, it'll join the actual paperwork of the indictment, and he'll be escorted across the hall into another elevator bank, taken to the courtroom on the 15th floor. It's the largest courtroom in the courthouse. And he will appear, he'll sit at the table with his attorneys. The prosecutors will be at the other table. And the judge issued an order last night that I think for 60 seconds or 120 seconds, they're allowing 5 pool reporters to stand before the table and take photographs. And then those reporters will be cleared out. The judge will take the bench. The clerk will call the case in, and they will ask the president if he's seen the indictment, whether he's read the indictment, whether he waives the public reading of the indictment, and then how does he plea, where he'll say not guilty. They will set a date to come back. And then the guess is, does the judge make some comments about gag orders? I do not see him placing a gag order at this point, but I see him giving some sort of a warning to all the lawyers and Mr. Trump about making statements about this case that are going to be very prejudicial, or attacking witnesses, attacking the prosecutor, attacking the judge himself.
Okay, really quickly, just a quick answer again from Arthur, and then Aaron, I want to get to you, but specifically Arthur, with your experience in Manhattan, do you have any relation with Todd Blanche? There was a last-minute ad of attorney Todd Blanche to Trump's legal team, and what would that mean?
I know Susan Nicholas very well. I know Joe Tacopina very well. They're brilliant trial attorneys. It's a perfect duo for this case. Last night, the judge added, Donald Trump added Todd Blanche. I do not know of him, except from what I've read, that he represented Paul Manafort.
All right, Aaron, back to you. In terms of a defense, the possibility to file motions for dismissal or change of venue. Talk to us about that, the likelihood of a judge granting that or not.
Well, I think it depends on the judge, but there has to be a number of pretrial motions that are going to be filed. I think, President Trump is going to certainly challenge the venue, try to get a fair and impartial jury. I don't know if that's even possible within the state of New York, but he's going to do his best, and his legal team will file a number of motions to push the district attorney's office through the ringer on a number of different issues. I suspect possible statute of limitations arguments and things of that nature as well. There's going to be a number of different technical and legal arguments that his team's going to make before we even get into the real meat and potatoes of the case.
Yeah, wait, I just wanted to ask a follow-up. I think, Arthur, did you mention that you're under the impression Donald Trump would have his mugshot taken?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, that happens in every case, and his fingerprints happen in every case. So I don't see any. And when I spoke to his lawyer last night, he's assuming that his mugshot is going to be taken. They're not going to put handcuffs on him as they typically would when he's taken from the mugshot process to the courtroom, as he'll be surrounded with the Secret Service agents, and I don't think he's going anywhere.
Aaron, as you said, they're going to make every effort to try and get him in that building and out as quickly as possible today. But this is a long process. Talk to us about how long it could take, even just to get motions filed and then get to jury selection, potentially, if this doesn't get thrown out.
I think most felony cases, especially one where we're hearing there's over 30 charges, it's going to take at least a year, if not more, just to even think about a trial. Pretrial motion practice is going to be ongoing as the discovery process is happening. So there's a lot of motions that are going to be filed. This process could take, if it goes all the way to a jury trial, could easily take a couple of years. That's likely Mr. Trump's plan, try to push this thing out as far as he can and fight it at every turn. And that's part of what the district attorney is going to have to deal with, is fighting every little thing in this case, which is not normal for most cases, but certainly for President Trump, he's going to fight absolutely everything. So it will delay it quite a bit.
Arthur, Joe Tacopina has been on several of the media circuits, and he has been very clear. The president will not plead guilty to anything. There will be no plea when they appear in court. He will plead not guilty, but again, no plea deals again. Your thoughts on that and how this is being handled, and maybe your confidence in Trump's legal team?
Well, I have the utmost confidence. I've worked very closely with Mr. Tacopina and Susan Nicholas, she was on the Trump corporate case and on this case. I mean, they're really A-plus attorneys. I think that there will be a point where they negotiate a deal for President Trump, and then it's up to him whether he takes it or not. But in almost every case, just so you guys know the statistics, in that courthouse, over 90% of the cases from the original arrest are pled out, or either dismissed or pled out. A very small percentage actually go to trial, but this is a very unique situation. And I think ultimately a plea deal will be presented to President Trump, and then he'll make his decision on whether he should take it or not take it. No one here, on what we know today, now this could change in 2 hours when the indictment is unsealed, believes Donald Trump was ever seeing a second in jail, even if he went to trial and he was convicted. So it's about community service, it's about paying a fine, those types of things.
And of course, it does. How long this takes, and whether or not he is still a candidate, whether or not this goes beyond the election, will also impact how that plea deal, if there is ever one, is handled, right?
Yeah, there's a timeline we're watching, right? We're getting closer and closer to the 2024 presidential election. Arthur and Aaron, gentlemen, thank you. Appreciate your insight today.
Thank you.
Thank you.